Hi and welcome to Squizz.com, the connected marketplace. Today I'll be taking you on a journey through the latest changes we've made to the Squizz.com connector software in the 1.11 release, showing you all the great new things it can do. If you didn't already know, the Squizz.com connector is a free piece of software developed by us that allows a business to connect any of their business systems, such as accounting systems, enterprise resource planning systems, customer relationship management systems, and any other systems, databases, spreadsheets, or files storing data into the Squizz.com and TOTECS platforms. In simple terms, the connector allows the business to save and make more money by being able to set up and automate data transfer between its systems and other supplier and customer systems. Now you've got a basic understanding of what the connector can do, let's look at the changes we've added to the 1.11 connector release. This release adds new functionality into the datasets feature, allowing attribute data to be set up in the connector application. We introduced the concepts of datasets back in the 1.10 connector release video, and we're going to be talking about datasets feature a little bit more in this video. So if you're unfamiliar with datasets, I highly recommend watching the 1.10 release video first before continuing on, and you can find links to this video in the YouTube video's description. Additionally, we've added new functionality into datasets that allows pagination and searching of records for all supported data types. This allows very large amounts of records, in the terms of tens to hundreds of thousands of records, to quickly load in the datasets window, and allows you to quickly find and modify data that you're looking for. And I'll talk a little bit more about this pagination and searching later on. To begin with, let's start with the attribute feature that we've added to the connector application. After opening the connector application and clicking on the Datasets tab, we will create a new dataset by clicking on the Create New Dataset button, and then we'll choose to save this file. So we'll call this file Inventory Data, and we'll save it at a location on the file system. And now once we've got our new dataset created, if I click on the View button to open up the dataset, in the dataset, a new tab has been added called Attributes, and within that it contains three subtabs: Attribute Profiles, Attributes, and Product Attribute Values. You might be wondering what attributes are, and basically attributes allow us to store any additional information that we want against products. Now, to show you an example of that, first what I want to do is I want to import some products into a dataset. So for this demonstration purposes, I've got an adapter set up to the MYOB AccountWrite accounting system, and this could easily be any other accounting system, and it doesn't have to be MYOB, and we're going to use this to import the products from the MYOB AccountWrite system into the dataset that we just created. So with this adapter set up and configured, I can now go into the Exports and Routines button. I can then find the Products Export, and just how we talked about in the 1.10 connector release video, I can choose to import the products from the MYOB AccountWrite system into the dataset of choice. So we've got our example dataset here that we just created. So if we run the Runs Off button, once that has been completed, if we look at the history log, we can see that that has successfully imported 36 products into the dataset. So if we close that and go back into our dataset, and we refresh the dataset, we can now see those products that have been imported from the MYOB AccountWrite system. So within MYOB, if we go into the items list, we can see here's all the products that we had in MYOB, and those products have been now all imported across into our dataset. So we can see all the codes that those products have. So we've got a few different products here. We've got these cooler bags, we've got some glassware, we've got some pottery, we've also got some water. So we can see all these unique IDs that MYOB's system internally gives for its products, as well as we can see all the product codes, and we can see some additional information about these products, such as stock availability. We can see the suppliers. We can also see the tax codes that are assigned to these products, and any other information that we've been able to pull out of MYOB. Now this is all great, but as you can see here, there's a limited number of fields that we can pull data out from for each product. And as you can see here, the standards only support a handful of fields about how to describe information about a product. But we may want to put in more information. Basically, we may want to create our own field where we can store information that is very specific to the kinds of products that we sell. So if we're selling cooler bags, we may want to put in a field that says whether or not this is a medium cooler bag or a small cooler bag, or that its color comes in blue or its color comes in green, and additional characteristics about that product. This is when the attribute feature comes in very handy, because it allows us to define an unlimited amount of fields where we can store any kind of information about the products that we want. So it is equivalent of creating more columns in this table to store more information about products. So let's see how it works in action. So if we click on the Attributes tab, we've got these three sub-tabs. The first tab we're going to talk about is an attribute. So an attributes defines the field or the column that we were talking about before, where we can put any kind of information that we want about that product. So let's take an example where we want to create a column called size. And this is going to allow us to set sizes for each of our products. So we'll give it a name called size. We might give it a key attribute ID. So this is the unique identifier of this attribute. And so each of these need to be unique if we had multiple. And then we can also say the kinds of data that we're going to store in this field. It's either going to be string, and that means it's text values, so that's alphanumeric values, any kind of letters or numbers that we want to store in the field. And if we set the data type to number, then we would only allow numeric values to be set in this field across all of our products. So we'll just keep it as string for now. And the other aspect here is the profile. So the attribute profile. So attributes can be bundled or grouped together to have collection of attributes that are related to each other. So let's just create a very generalized attribute profile. Let's just call a profile called characteristics. So this profile can store any kind of characteristics about a product. So we'll just give it the same description. Once again, so each attribute also needs to have a unique identifier. That's what the key attribute profile ID is. So we'll keep it quite easy at the moment and just keep same as the name, but we could easily just have numbers. So we'll assign this profile to this attribute. And once we copy that in, you can see that the name will automatically appear in these grayed out fields. So you can't edit data in the grayed out fields, but these are used to tell you that this attribute that we created called size is associated to the characteristics. With this attribute now set up, we can now assign products to values of this size attribute. So if we click then on the product attribute values, so we can see all the products that were previously loaded in the product tab also appear in the product attribute values tab. But there's one difference where you can now see the attribute that we created here called size. There's a column now available where we can now go through each of our products and set the size. So we could say this product could have a size of small. Now we can see these products, so we can now set the sizes of each of the products that have a size small. There's another product that has size small. We've got a product here that's medium, and we can see here we've got some other products that have small and large sizes. So this shows you an example how you can create new columns or new attributes and store information about products in these attributes. So we have one attribute called size. We might have another attribute called color, since many products usually define the color or the primary color that they represent. So if we then add this another attribute here and we assign it to the same attribute profile, we've now got two attributes assigned to the one profile. And if we then go back to the product attribute values and click define reload data, you'll see that that new column is now available here called characteristics color. So now we can go through our products again and we can start giving them colors. So this product might have a color blue. This large cooler might have a color of green. Down here can have a filter kit, so that might be gray. Got some other products here, coffee powder, so it's brown in color. Now, there might be a case where a product may have multiple colors, maybe not just one primary color. So what we can do is if we click on the column of a product and it already has a value, if we click on the insert key, you'll see that the same product row has been duplicated. So now we can assign two colors to a product. So this product, this cooler bag small, has the colors blue, green, and if we click on the insert button, it may also have a color called red. So we've got three color values assigned to one product. And we can do this for any kind of products that we want. So let's just take another example where we have, say, we're talking about spring water. We could give that a color of blue, and we could click the insert button and give it a color of red as well. And you can do this for each of the columns. So on this characteristic size, this may be small water, spring water product, but it also may be a medium product. So we can see that we can add multiple values here. And if we wanted to add a third value, once again, click on the insert button, and then we can give it all the sizes that product is associated to. So this shows you an examples of how we can define as many attributes as we want for our products. Now, we may have multiple profiles. A typical example is where we have a profile that is related to the kinds of products that we deal with. So we were talking about cooler bags before. That may be a category for our product. So if we go to the category, we can create a new category called bags, and we'll just give that a code and a name. And then we might go through each of our products, find which products are the bags. So there's another bag there. There's a bag there. So we've assigned a handful of products to that category. Now, if we go back into the product attributes, we may also want to create a profile, also matches that category as well. So we've created a bags attribute profile. Then under attributes, we may create multiple attributes that are associated to that profile. So bags may have style. They could have a column called reusable. We also might have an attribute that is called recyclable. So now we've got 3 attributes assigned to this bag attribute profile. So if we go back into attribute profiles, refresh it, we can now see we've got now these 5 attributes that we've created, and we've got these 3 new ones that are associated with bags. Now, not all of our products are bags, and we may only want to set values based on the products that are in the bags category. And this is where we get into the filtering. So now, if we wanted to, we could hide the columns which are not relevant to products that are not in the bags category. So we can then choose to go into the key category ID, and we created our category before with the ID of bags. And if we do a filter based on that, it's going to find all products only that are assigned to the bags category. So now we can go through each of these products which we know are in the bags category, and we can set up values. So this product, this cooler bag medium, might be recyclable. The one next to it maybe not. The other one may be recyclable as well. This may be reusable. Maybe all of the products are reusable, so we can put the values yes if we wanted to. This bag style might be comfy. The other style might be rigid. This third product, the cooler bag, might be flexible. So when you're dealing with large sets of data, talking about in the tens to 20s of thousands of products, and you've got your categories data set up, you can then quickly find and modify the products that are associated with given categories and set up attributes for those products in those categories. This is a typical workflow that happens on most websites where certain categories users can choose from attributes to filter products by. Now we can go a step further. Because we've got these other attributes, maybe they're not relevant to these products as well. So we can filter also the columns. Maybe we don't display the characteristics attributes. Maybe we only want to display attributes that are associated with the bags attribute profile. So we've got this second filter that's available here where we can go only show attribute columns where those attributes are assigned to a profile called bags. And if we do a search, you can see that the other columns, the other attributes, are now hidden as well. So once again, we have been able to further refine down the attributes and the products that we need to enter data for that are associated with this profile, and products are in that category as well. So this is a great way to make it nice and quick and easy for a person who's setting up attribute data against your products to be able to see the attributes that are relevant to them. And this would be a recommended way to do that. You could set up an attribute profile, which is a generalized profile. Applies to all your products across all areas of business, or you could alternatively set up profiles that are associated with categories or some other grouping that restricts down the products that profile and those attributes are relevant to. So using this feature, we can create unlimited amount of fields that we otherwise could not create against each of the products, where we can enter any information that we want. Now there are many other filters that we've got available here, so we can find products that display based on all the different codes that we've got available. So if we go to our products, we may want to find products that have the word carbon in its code. So if we go back to here and we load up, find all of our products that have carbon in it, so we can see now there's 4 products that we can set attributes to, and we may not care about the attribute profile. So if we set these fields empty, then those filters will not occur anymore. And so we can do the same for this. If we remove the word carbon, click on the find reload data, then we'll get all of our products appear back again. So there is a lot of flexibility that we have here on how to search, find, filter, and set data against the attributes that we want to do. And just like all the other data types that we can set up in the data set, we select a value, click the Control-C, key characters together, then click on another cell and select multiple cells and click the Control-V keys together. We can then paste multiple values across multiple products in the table cells here. So with this information, you can now go through your collection of products and start putting in additional information about those products that your users may want to see on the associated platforms and websites, or the users may want to use to find products by. So to show an example of attributes in effect, if we look at this site on the web, we can see that there's 3 attributes that have been set up: tube type, valve length, and valve type. So within the connector application, So we can set up these 3 different attributes, and they can be assigned to a profile called tubes. And then we can see for each different tube, there's a number of values. In this case, these are the different kind of brands of tubes that are available. And then we can see that there have been millimeters that have been set for the different kinds of lengths of valves that users can select from. And the types of valves you can connect to the pumps and use to pump up the tubes. We can see that there are the different values here. So using these attributes that have been set up in the dataset, users can then filter down and find the products that are relevant based on those attributes that they have selected. So this shows you an example of how where the attribute data is very useful to allow users to quickly find the products that they're looking for and find specific information about products that would be otherwise unavailable in the generalized product detail forms. So if we went back to this site, because they have a number of different categories, we could set up attributes based on the categories that they sell, or we could set up general attributes that cover all the products that this website sells, such as a brand or colors or stylings or general attributes. Now, like I was saying before, attributes, we can set it up as strings or we can set up as numbers. So if this product called valve length, we could also decide to set that up as a number. And then in our data set values, in that attribute, we could only set numbers. So if we had enter a characters, then we would see this error message saying that you must enter a number value for that value to be saved. Once fixed up, there should be no problems saving that value. So with this knowledge available, now you want to look at your own kind of products that you sell, see how the ways that users would want to search for products based on the different attributes you can define for them, and then set the data up within the data set here, and then we can export it out to the relevant e-commerce platform. To export all this data out that is stored in the attributes, we then now need to use a generic adapter. We need to set up an SQLite database. So let's call it just our test inventory data set. We add a data source and we set up the path to the data set file that we created earlier. And we select the data set file, give it a test query so that we can see that we can connect to it, save those settings. Then if we go into the data exports tab, we can see that there are 3 exports that are applicable for us to be exporting the data from the dataset. So we need to set up an attribute profiles data export. So we choose our dataset file. We can find the names of the data that's set in these attribute profiles. If we go to the connector documentation center at squizz.com docs connector and we scroll down to the data section, within the datasets page, under the storing attribute data within the dataset section, we can now see each of the fields that are available, the kinds of data they store. And under the top section in the overview, we can also get the names of the tables where it store this data. There's a table called attribute profile in the datasets database. There's a table called attribute, and there's a table called product attribute value. So if we copy those values, go back to the connector, if we type in attribute profile, then for each of the fields, we can simply copy the standards field's name into each of the field definitions, activate those fields, save the settings for that attribute export, then go into the next export, type the word attribute, and that's the name of the table that stores attribute data in the dataset, click the save button. Then for each of the fields, do the same process. We copy the field values across, activate all those fields, reload the fields, and then in the attribute product values, the table that stores the attribute data is called product attribute value. So we save that export, and once again, in the data fields tab, we then set the fields that store that data, activate all those fields, reload those fields. So once we've got these 3 data exports set up, we can now configure this adapter to then export all the attribute data out of the dataset in the connector to the relevant e-commerce platform that we want to send it to. If we click on the product attributes data export, choose the field that we want to send that data to, then we can choose to export it out and send it across where it can be then updated within our own website or within the squizz.com platform, and then have those values that appear updated with the new data we have set up. So that gives you a start to end guide on how to get data out of an accounting or an ERP system, such as we got here, these products data. We've set up these attribute profiles and attributes that we wanted to define the kinds of values that we want to set for our products. In the product attribute values tab, we then load up the products that we want to set relevant attributes to, set the values up, and then we configure a generic adapter to export all this data out together to the relevant system that we want to import the attribute data into. Now there's also the ability to import attribute data already into here, and once again we just set up a generic adapter. So for example in MyHub, if we look at some of these products and view the details of the product. In most accounting or ERP systems, we may have these custom fields where we already store information. So if we're talking about a cooler bag, we may have this custom field that already stores our attribute called large, or the bag type, or the size of the bag, or the colors of the bag. So we can also configure the attributes within the connector application to read data from these values and import the attribute data into the data set as well. So if your system has already got some data in it, the generic adapter can also be set up to get that data into the data sets as well. And using this feature should make it quicker and easier to get this attribute data set up and getting used by your users to find your products and additional information about your products. For all the data types that the dataset supports, we have now added pagination, so that way if we had 20,000 products, this table would only load a maximum of 500 records per page, and then we can paginate to the next and previous pages. So if we just set this down to 20, we can now see that there are 2 pages of products showing a combined total of 36 products, but we can only see 20 products. So now we can paginate to the pages. So we're now on page 2 and we can see the remaining 16 products that are available there. If you've got thousands of products, this pagination allows this data to display very quickly, and then you can also choose how big the result sets you want to display for are. Additionally, if you're trying to find a specific set of products, such as we have here, we've also added this search filtering capability. So we might want to find all products where the name is equal to cooler. So once we do that and click the find reload button, 10 products were found that have the word cooler within its name. And you can also find the opposite, where you want to find all products where the name cooler is not contained in the name. So if we do that, we can now see that there's 26 products that were found that don't have the word cooler within it. So we've got some flexibility on how we want to search for records. You can search for records based on all the columns that are available for that data stored in that table. So we could find products based on having information stored in the description field. And it's the same goes for the categories, where we can find categories based on different details of the categories themselves. Same for cell units. We can find profiles or attributes based on different filters. So we may only want to find attributes where it is assigned to a profile called bags, and then we can refine that as well. So this will give you a lot of flexibility on being able to find the data that you need to, specifically when you've got quite large sets of data in the thousands to 10,000s of records. And that gives you a wrap-up of the changes we have added to the datasets feature within the connector application. Thank you for taking the time to listen. Until next time, have fun with the connector.